A trip through Earth's history. Fossils. You probably already know that fossils are the remains or evidence of once living organisms. Paleontologists are scientists who study the fossils and try to get understanding of how these organisms lived in the past. Fossils form when living things die and are buried in sediment. That sediment slowly hardens into rock and preserves the shape of organisms. Recall that sediment is the material removed by erosion, and sediment is made of rock particles or the remains of living things. Sandstone, limestone, and coal are all examples of sedimentary rocks. Most fossils form from animals or plants that once lived in or near quiet waters, such as swamps, lakes, or shallow seas where sediments build up. Now, there's a fossil record that is made up of all fossils ever discovered on Earth, and it contains millions of fossils that represent many thousands of species. Most of these species are no longer alive on Earth, and the fossil record provides evidence that species have changed over time. The fossil record is enormous, but it is still incomplete, and scientists think it represents only a small fraction of all the organisms that have ever lived on the Earth. For a fossil to form, the remains or traces of an organism must be protected from decay. Several processes then may cause a fossil to form. Fossils found in rock include molds and casts, petrified fossils, carbon films, and trace fossils. Other fossils form when the remains of organisms are preserved in substances such as tar, amber, or ice. A mold, as seen in this image here, is the most common fossil along with casts. A mold is a hollow area in sediment in the shape of an organism or part of an organism. A mold forms when the hard part of the organism, such as a shell, is buried in the sediment. Eventually, if water is carrying dissolved minerals in sediment, then it may seep into empty spaces of a mold. If the water deposits the minerals and sediments in this mold, the result is a cast. A cast is a solid copy of the shape of an organism. It's opposite from a mold, yet they both preserve the details of an animal's structure. Sometimes remains of organisms become petrified, and the term petrified means turned to stone. Petrified fossils occur when minerals replace all or part of the organism. Here's an example of a petrified tree trunk. The figure in this image formed after sediment covered the tree trunk, and then water rich in dissolved minerals seeped into the spaces of the plant cells over time, hardening and filling in all the spaces. Some of the original wood remains, but the minerals have hardened and preserved it. Sometimes you may pick up a rock and find an extremely thin coating of carbon on it, and this type of fossil is called a carbon film. These types of fossils occur when sediment buries an organism. The materials in that organism eventually break down and become gases. The gases will eventually escape, leaving only the carbon behind to lay out this beautiful structure. A fun type of fossil to find are trace fossils because they provide evidence of an ancient organism's activities. Most trace fossils preserved are in the shape of footprints, or sometimes they're lines where tails may have been dragging when the animal was walking. This helps give scientists clues about animal size and behavior. Did the animal walk on 2 or 4 legs? Did it hunt alone or as part of a group? The famous tar pits in Los Angeles, California were unfortunate for many organisms, trapping them in sticky oil that seeps from the Earth's surface. Over thousands of years, the tar soaked into their bones, preserving the bones from decay, and many times preserving the remains of organisms with little or no change. Ancient organisms have also been found to be preserved in amber or resin from trees, in which insects get trapped in. When the insect dies, more resin continues to seep down over it, sealing in air and protecting the body from decay. Preserved remains of woolly mammoths have even been found in cold regions of Siberia and Alaska due to the freezing temperatures. Freezing not only has preserved the mammoth's hair and skin, but scientists have been able to discover contents within the stomach to see what it ate thousands of years ago. As mentioned, paleontologists have gathered information about past life in the fossil record. This fossil record provides evidence about the history of life, past environments on Earth, and especially records different groups of organisms and how they have changed over time. Paleontologists can use this to help picture what Earth looked like thousands and millions of years ago. including if an area was ocean or land, the past climate of the region, and if much has changed from the area currently to when it was long ago. Scientists have been able to use fossils to determine the ages of organisms. If you were to look at a huge canyon wall, you would see layers of sedimentary rock piled on top of each other. The layers near the top are formed most recently, and the layers at the bottom are the oldest because they were formed years ago. Fossils found in layers near the top of the canyon are younger than fossils found near the bottom of the canyon. When scientists compare organisms found at the top and the bottom, they have evidence to show that life on Earth has evolved or changed over time. The fossil record provides evidence to support this theory of evolution. And a scientific theory is a well-tested concept that explains a wide range of observations. So not only does the fossil record show that millions of organisms have evolved gradually over long periods of times, but that many have also become extinct or they no longer exist and probably will never again on Earth. Let's take a break and it's time to show what you know.